Furthermore, the Canadians visiting Scotland inject £100 million into the Scottish economy, and 6,000 jobs in Scotland come from Canadian companies. And Canada, of course, is a top exporter for Scotland already, up to £600 million in 2017. These, of course, are some of our great exports. Interestingly, two of the biggest exports to Canada are haggis and whiskey. Haggis and whiskey. And in 2017, McSween's of Edinburgh actually reconfigured its haggis recipe to meet Canadian food standards. I don't know if that improved it or not, the haggis, but we changed the recipe somewhat. And since then, the company has exported 8 tons of haggis to Scotland, and shifting 25,000 pounds of it just in January, of course, for the bird suppers that happen during that month. If any proof was needed for the strong link between our nations, it is the fact that these are Scotland's primary exports to Canada. The Scottish Parliament is already developing policies that actually mirror Canada's to some extent. Scottish immigration policy towards refugees is largely borrowed from the Canadian concepts of new Canadians as refugees, which are rooted into our immigration policy. This contrasts so sharply with the shameful rhetoric in England. Scotland took in more than a third of all of the UK's Syrian refugees. Furthermore, like Ontario, Scotland is actually experimenting with a progressive policy on universal basic income. And last year, the Scottish government hosted the Arctic Circle Forum, as well as opening an office in Ottawa, thereby increasing some of these links in a quiet way to Canada. Scots and Canadians perhaps are the nations that travel the best. Are we the people most proud to have our nation's flags on our backpack? Possibly. And perhaps by joining, we have even more chance to change the world. Perhaps the world needs this combined nation also, role modeling together how people of multiple cultures can live together and actually get along. And combined, we bridge to Asia, North America, and Europe. That's most of the world. And the international standing of both Scotland and Canada means that, like in every great merger, 1 and 1 can make 3. Furthermore, we would have the Olympic curling medals sewn up through the combination. We already have Nova Scotia. Why not just add Scotia? Why do this now? Well, one thing of beauty is, all Scots, and I'm the first, love blaming things on England. It's all England's fault. They're the ones. They're the ones. Many Scots came to England directly because they were pushed out of the Highlands by the ethnic cleansing of the Highland clearances. Furthermore, Scotland's latest bid for independence was initiated by the English voting to leave the EU, while the Scots voted largely to remain. On the rebound, if the English are upset about Scotland joining Canada, perhaps we could suggest they join the US. After all, the English have strong roots in America. Britain is a failed state. Britain is a failed state, seemingly devoid of leadership, able to unify the people. Brexit is the first referendum where the electorate actually disagreed with MPs. The electorate voted to leave 52%, while MPs voted to stay 75%. Furthermore, the 25% of the MPs voting to leave, disagreed with how the vote should be interpreted, and it's been a mess ever since then. Parliamentary democracy and direct democracy have become incompatible. And May's government recorded the worst ever Commons defeat on her Brexit deal, and the first ever in the history of Parliament to be found in contempt of Parliament over refusing to actually have a legal opinion published on the Brexit deal. The Confederation of British Industries, that's a group of British CEOs, called upon Parliament to stop the circus The Daily Mail calls Parliament the House of Fools. Only 6% of voters say Parliament is emerging from the Brexit story so far in a good light. 6% of them. The logjam is still there, 1,000 days after the initial referendum. In response to all this, Theresa May has manipulated the situation through offering no alternative. It's either Brexit her way or a no-deal Brexit, which is worse. Scotland voted Remain, unlike England. It has stronger links to Europe than England does. Remember the old alliance, la vieille alliance, between Scotland and France. The Scots and the French had strong